Chapter 196, Dilemma, Emotional or Rational Choice. Fujin had completed his morning workout and was about to enter the basement when he heard the doorbell. He checked and opened the door and said, "Hey Miko. Come in." Miko entered his house. Fujin noticed, she is uncharacteristically silent. And her mood seems down. He asked, "What's up?" Miko said, "I won't be able to come for missions for some time." Fujin could feel the sadness in her voice. He wondered, what's up with her? I haven't seen her so down until now. He asked, "Why? Did something happen?" As he asked her, he could see tears forming in her eyes. Fujin sighed in his mind and helped her take a seat. He also grabbed some water for her to drink. Miko drank the water and said, "Shisui died. Mother said that he committed suicide." Fujin's eyes widened. He thought, so it's time. Fujin knew that Shisui had mentored Miko at some point in the past. She had stated about learning the body flicker jutsu from him. Fujin said, "That is sad news. Were the two of you close?" Miko nodded. "We didn't hang out much for the last couple of years, but he used to mentor me a lot before it. He taught me Fire Dragon Jutsu and Body Flicker Jutsu." Miko continued talking about Shisui for over 5 minutes. Fujin just patiently listened to her while sitting next to her. After she was done, both sat silently for a minute. Finally, Miko got up and said, "Could you tell Teru and Hoka that I won't be able to come for missions?" Fujin nodded and said, "Don't worry. I'll tell them." Miko thanked him and left. Fujin saw her leaving his home and involuntarily said, "Miko." Miko turned around and asked, "Yes." Fujin sighed and asked, "Would you like to go on missions to take your mind off this?" Miko was happy that Fujin asked her this. However, she said, "No. My parents instructed me to not go on any missions for some time. But thanks for asking, Fujin." Fujin thought, they instructed? I see. They want her to participate in the coup. So every Uchiha ninja should be called back using the excuse of Shisui's death. No wonder there wasn't any Uchiha survivor other than Sasuke. He said, "All right then. Take care." Miko nodded and left. Fujin saw her leaving and sighed. He closed his door and muttered, "I ended up asking her that." He sat down as he thought, "When I realized that I was in the Naruto world, I decided that I won't form any relationships or be emotionally attached to anyone. I decided that I won't even make a lot of friends and won't be emotionally attached to any that I make. After all, this is the dangerous world of deadly ninjas. And I know for a fact that at least 80% of all ninjas would die in the Fourth Great Ninja War. This means that any friend I have will have an 80% chance to die before I reach 22 years of age. Meaning that unless I'm lucky or become insanely strong to protect everyone I care about, every 4 out of 5 friends of mine will die in the next 10 years. So getting emotionally attached to them could result in me breaking down similar to how Kakashi broke down after the Third War. And I don't want to suffer emotionally like him or hundreds of others who went through the same shit that he did in this world." Fujin stopped thinking for a few seconds before letting out another sigh. "Unfortunately, though my plan was right, I didn't take human nature into account. Due to having spent so much time with them, I guess I have become quite fond of Renjiro, Miko, and Hoka. Maybe Teru and Genji as well. Looks like I am not as emotionless as I want to be." He chuckled and continued introspecting, "Fortunately, it hasn't reached a stage where I would do something crazy for them. But, leaving my emotions aside, is there anything I could do for Miko?" Fujin began thinking. After a while, he concluded, there are only two ways to directly get involved. One would be to stop Itaki and Obito head-on. Another would be to convince Hiruzen to lift the restrictions on Uchiha and reintegrate them into Konoha. Unfortunately, the first option is pure suicide. I don't know if I can be strong enough to face either of them 10 years from now. If I do anything right now, I'll just die pointlessly. As for the second option, even that is very pointless. All it will do is expose the fact that I know about the coup Uchiha has planned and attract suspicions from all the elders and Hiruzen himself. The attention would mean that I could be watched in the future and my freedom will get restricted. Not to mention, I have no confidence in being able to convince them to integrate Uchiha back into Konoha. After all, I doubt Hiruzen wants to see something like this happen and he still hasn't been able to do anything to stop it. So my only reasonable option is to only save Miko. And the only way to do it would be to force her to go on a mission against her parents' wishes. Could I do it? And what would be the risks? Fujin began analyzing again. After a while, he concluded, I might be able to make her go on a mission with us. If I choose a long mission that would take us around a month to complete, she will stay out of Konoha when the massacre happens. As for the risks, there are two critical risks. The first is Danzo. If he is insistent on eliminating all Uchihas, he could send his root agents to kill any Uchiha out of Konoha. If he does, we will have to confront them. And I am not confident about my team's chances against them. Especially if he sends a squad of only Jounin-level root agents. The other risk is Miko herself. Assuming we stay safe and return to Konoha, there are two possibilities I see with her. The favorable possibility for me is that the trauma caused by the news of the death of her parents and her clan makes her awaken the Mangekyo Sharinan. Assuming that she still has a crush on me, she could be a great asset to have as a friend as long as she doesn't go crazy. Though Danzo may want to have her in that case, I doubt Hiruzen would allow him that. After all, though the elimination of the Uchiha clan could be considered a great feat for Danzo, it is also the death of his political career. Hiruzen won't let go of such an opportunity. I know that he will shut down the route, but with my few interactions with that old fox, I am sure that he will do a lot more. I'm guessing that he inducted a majority of Danzo's root ninjas into Umbu and only left Danzo's most faithful subordinates with him in case Hiruzen ever needs root's help in the future. However, the chances of awakening Mangekyo are infinitesimally low. The more likely possibility is that she will reach 3 Tomo Sharinan. And that would make her a huge threat. After all, Uchiha Stone Tablet states that they should kill the person closest to them to awaken Mangekyo. If Miko reads that, I'll have to forever watch my back around her if she considers me the one closest to her. Fujin began deciding his course of action. He struggled for a long time between his emotional and rational mind. Finally, rational thoughts won over emotions as he decided, I need to stop being emotional. Though I would like to see Miko stay alive, I shouldn't be putting my life and future in grave danger for her. After all, the events that will play out will be controlled by forces far beyond my capabilities. He made 2 shadow clones to deliver the message to Hoka and Teru. Fujin thought, it's unfortunate, but I always knew that this was about to happen. And there is nothing I can do to stop this. Now, it's time to put the plan into action. I wonder who has the body of the Grand Priest. Is it with Sara or Akihiko or did they hand it to Fugaku? To avoid constantly thinking of Miko and having a change of heart, Fujin began planning to get the Zankoku's body from the Uchihas. Chapter 197, All Parties Prepare. To create a workable plan, Fujin had 1 clone in the library the entire time that he wasn't on missions. His clone looked through the entire library to find any methods and seals to help him find a way to infiltrate the Uchiha compound. After researching and practicing for a month, Fujin had found all the means to create a plan and try his luck while ensuring his safety and anonymity. He began the preparations. While Fujin was making his preparations, the Uchiha clan too began their preparations. All active Uchiha ninjas were called back. Every single Uchiha ninja returned back to Konoha. They began to prepare themselves for the war. Meanwhile, Danzo met Itachi in secret and explained to him what would happen when the Uchiha revolted, once again. He convinced Itachi to take action against his own clan. However, while the two were talking, their actions were seen by one person. In his room, Hiruzen watched their whole interaction in his crystal ball. Surprisingly, neither Danzo nor Itachi sensed anything off. Tiredness could be seen on Hiruzen's face as he sighed on seeing his friend's actions. I would have stopped him. Unfortunately, the relationship between the village and the Uchiha clan has deteriorated beyond repair. His expression became firm as he decided not to interfere. While it's true that they were relocated to the outskirts of the village and monitored by Umbu, no Uchiha was ever mistreated by us. I can understand that they would be dissatisfied with such a treatment. However, this is no excuse for launching a coup that would destroy the village. On deciding the fate of the Uchiha, Hiruzen's eyes fell on Danzo. My old friend, it looks like you have completely fallen into darkness. This will be the last time you will interfere in the matters of my village. While the undercurrents were flowing in Konoha, Fujin was busy in his basement making a lot of complicated seals. A day after Miko told him the news, Fujin completed the first step of his plan. He took a deep breath. Finally, it's done. He made a hand sign. A shadow clone appeared next to him. The clone made multiple hand signs. Fujin observed the clone by concentrating chakra in his eyes. He could see that the chakra signature of the clone was slowly changing. Soon, it was very different from Fujin's chakra signature. His scent also changed. Fujin thought, good, now it will be difficult to link the clone to me. After the clone completed the process, Fujin applied another scent to the clone to make it look like he was hiding his real scent. Next, the clone used the transformation jutsu to transform into a honey badger. Fujin thought, normally, seeing this animal in the streets of Konoha would raise suspicions. But, the Uchiha clan compound is on the outskirts of Konoha. If it appears there, it won't cause any suspicion. After all, there are many of these in the forests inside Konoha. After the clone transformed, Fujin began making seals on its body. He first applied seals that would increase its affinity to earth nature manipulation. This way, it would have an easier time moving underground and would also reduce any chances of it being related to Fujin, as Fujin wasn't known for his earth element. He followed it up by applying numerous stealth seals on the body of his transformed clone. Soon, the honey badger couldn't be seen, heard, smelled, or sensed. Fujin checked his work several times until he was satisfied. Finally, he nodded and said, "You'll be responsible for the first task." The honey badger didn't reply. Fujin made a hand sign and sealed him in a special storage scroll. He created a wind clone who took the storage scroll with him and flickered multiple times in the forests next to his house. After coming to a very secluded place far away from his house, the wind clone opened the scroll and let the honey badger clone out. The honey badger clone checked his surroundings and moved stealthily towards the Uchiha clan. He moved under the ground so as to not leave any trails. The wind clone also left. After going away sufficient distance, he destroyed the storage scroll and dispersed himself. The honey badger quickly moved towards the Uchiha clan compound but did not enter it. He had no intention of testing his seals against the Sharingan. Instead, he went to the route that Uchiha kids would take while going to and coming from the academy and stayed there. The honey badger clone thought, the first task consists of 2 missions. The first is to keep an eye on Uchiha Sasuke. The day Sasuke returns very late from the academy will most likely be the day the massacre happens. And, the second task is to see if anyone notices me. If someone does, I will drop all plans of stealing that dead body. While this clone kept an eye, Fujin created 5 more honey badger clones. They would roam through the forests and training grounds in Konoha to see if anyone notices anything suspicious in them. Fujin had calculated, honey badgers are rather common in Konoha. So a few more of them shouldn't raise any eyebrows. However, if someone is still able to somehow figure out that they are my clones, I can just admit that they were made by me and I was practicing stealth for missions. After all, I haven't done anything wrong yet. If no one notices anything strange, then I'll deploy them around the Uchiha clan. The honey badger clones would roam around Konoha all night and disperse themselves when the sun rose. Fujin experimented for 2 days before deciding that they were safe to be used. From the 3rd day, all 6 of his honey badger clones used to stay around the Uchiha clan compound. In addition, Fujin would maintain 2 wind clones at one secluded spot a few kilometers from the Uchiha clan compound. With the preparations done, Fujin just waited for the right moment. A few days later, in an underground base under Konoha, Danzo stood with a subordinate. The subordinate respectfully asked, "What job do you have for me, Danzo-sama?" Danzo looked at him and said, "Your triatomany bugs can induce sluggishness, right?" The root ninja was from the Abarame clan. He replied, "Yes, Danzo-sama. They can cause slight sluggishness with their poison. And since it poses no direct threat and doesn't have any color or smell, it is almost impossible to detect." Danzo said, "Good. Your mission is to poison the drinking water that reaches the Uchiha clan with this poison. Use very small quantities. Your main priority is that this poison isn't noticed. Once you are done, go to training ground 49 and wait for me." The root ninja was surprised by the mission. However, it wasn't his place to question Danzo. He nodded and left. Danzo watched him leave as he thought, he was a good subordinate. A shame that he has to die. Danzo called another subordinate of his and instructed him to approach the Abarame ninja in the training ground 49 and kill him and dispose of his body as well. Though Danzo's subordinates had his curse seal, no seal was perfect. Considering the importance and severity of this matter, Danzo decided to take this step. This way no one other than him and the elders would know about the truth of the Uchiha massacre. The root ninja from the Abarame clan did his job exceptionally well. Since it only caused a slight sluggishness, no Uchiha ninja realized that they had been drugged. After all, they didn't have to move at full speed in their normal lives. Danzo made a few more moves that day. He ensured that no Hyuga, Inyazuka, or Sensor ninja was in the vicinity of the Uchiha clan compound to prevent any interference. In fact, he had ensured that most of their active ninjas were on duty outside Konoha. Finally, on that evening, Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Obito appeared in the Uchiha clan compound. Almost everyone in the village was oblivious to the massacre that was about to unfold. Only 3 were aware of it and waited patiently. Danzo was busy with his root ninjas to ensure that Itachi wasn't interrupted. Meanwhile, he also had to ensure that his root ninjas weren't close to the Uchiha clan compound and get caught in the fighting. Hiruzen had recalled all Umbu ninjas that were keeping an eye on the Uchiha clan. While Fujin was waiting in his basement for his clones to send him a message. Chapter 198, The Massacre. A/N, Hey guys. I'd like to clarify one point. According to the canon timeline, Shisui died around 1 to 2 years before the Uchiha massacre. Itachi becomes an Umbu captain sometime after his death. However, I don't think the flashbacks in the manga ever stated the time between these events or even the fact that Itachi became an Umbu captain after Shisui's death. And I skipped the fillers in the anime after the Fourth Great Ninja War started. So I wasn't aware of the huge time gap between Shisui's death and the massacre and assumed that they happened in quick succession as they were shown in the manga. By the time I realized this, the story had long crossed the point when Shisui should have died. So, unfortunately, the timing of Shisui's death will not be consistent with the canon. The rest stays the same. Since it was getting late, most of the Uchiha clan members were in their homes with their families. For them, it was like any other evening. Their jounins were aware that they would have to fight a tough war very soon. So they cherished their peaceful days with their family, unaware of the tragedy about to befall them. As soon as Itachi and Obito appeared in the clan, both immediately began the massacre. Obito freely moved through the walls and attacked the unsuspecting Uchihas. Itachi too flickered into their homes. Since he was the son of the clan leader, no one expected him to attack when he did. They began slaughtering the Uchihas with extreme ease and stealth. While slaughtering, Itachi showed up in Uchiha Akihiko's house. Akihiko was having dinner with his wife and children when he suddenly got up and turned around to face the intruder. He squinted his eyes on seeing Itachi, wondering what he was doing here. Most of the top-tier ninjas in the Uchiha clan were disappointed in Itachi and slightly suspicious of him. Unlike others who didn't expect any attack from the son of their leader, Akihiko was on guard and asked, "Why did you show up unannounced?" Without replying, Itachi attacked him with his blade. Akihiko didn't have any weapons on him. He tried to move out of the way. Unfortunately, his body reacted a split second slower. That was sufficient time for Itachi's blade to slit his throat open. Akihiko's family were shocked. However, before they could scream in horror, Itachi dealt with them too. Some distance away from Akihiko's house, Obito entered Miko's home. They too were having dinner. Both of Miko's parents were at the jounin rank. Sensing that someone had broken into their home, they both got up and prepared themselves. Miko noticed her parents' actions and got alert as well. She asked softly, "What happened, mother?" Her mother replied, "Someone has broken into our house. Stay on guard." At the next moment, Obito appeared in front of them. Not identifying the masked intruder, Miko's father made hand signs rapidly without caring about his house. Fire release, fireball jutsu. A massive fireball appeared in front of Obito, who thought, interesting. Their house had seals to alert them. Unfortunately, I can't let this fireball explode. He stood without moving and let the fireball reach him. However, instead of the fireball hitting him, the Uchiha family was surprised to see the fireball being sucked into his mask. Taking advantage of the surprise, Obito went on the attack without giving them any time. Obito's speed was much higher than the three. Combined with their sluggish moments, they didn't last even a few seconds against him. Miko saw in horror as both her parents were beheaded. Tears rolled down her eyes. Her eyes began transforming as another Tomo appeared in her eyes. Obito watched her eyes and commented in a deep voice, "Interesting. To awaken 3 Tomo Sharinans at your age. Very impressive." However, Miko was in no mood to hear any praise. She screamed, "Return my parents to me." She attacked Obito with all her might. However, a rod pierced through her heart in the next second. Miko coughed out blood as her memories flashed in her eyes. As she died, she heard Obito's deep voice, "Unfortunately, you don't have the time to grow." As she fell down, she remembered the scene of Fujin saving her the last time. Unfortunately, she knew that it wasn't possible this time. It was already too late. She closed her eyes and fell to the ground. Obito thought, a family with 3 pairs of 3 Tomo Sharinans. How rare. In a flash, he took the Sharinans of all 3 of them and stored them before continuing his massacre. Itaki and Obito continued massacring unopposed. After some time, Fujin opened his eyes in his basement. The honey badger clone that kept eye on the route from the academy to the Uchiha clan saw Sasuke running towards home. Fujin's other shadow clones also received the memories. They prepared themselves to move after a few minutes. Fujin left his basement and got out of his house. He analyzed, from what little I remember, there was some time gap between the massacre and the Umbu ninjas reaching the Uchiha clan compound. That is the only window I have. Fujin became a bit restless, but he didn't move away from his home. This entire mission was left to his clones. In the Uchiha clan compound, Itachi finally entered his house ready to confront his father, only to see his parents not willing to fight. Fugaku said, "I see, you have aligned with the other side." Itachi controlled his emotions as he said, "Father, Mother, I." However, Mikoto interrupted him, "We know already." Itachi. Fugaku said, "Itachi, just promise us this. Take care of Sasuke." With tears in his eyes, Itachi said, "I will." Fugaku sensed Itachi's struggle and said, "Do not fear it. You chose this path, right? Compared to you, our pain will be over in an instant." He continued, "Even if our philosophies differ, I am still proud of you. You are a truly kind child." With tears in his eyes, Itachi pierced his blade into his mother and father. Fugaku looked at his wife as he died. With his last breath, he said, "Destroy our eyes." Itachi understood his father's wishes. Though he didn't fight against his son, he didn't want his eyes to end up in the hands of those who schemed against his clan and led them down this path of no return. Respecting his father's wishes, Itachi destroyed both their eyes. With Fugaku and most of the Uchiha clan dead, the coup was finally averted. It was at this moment that Sasuke entered home with fear in his eyes. He saw his dead parents. After a small fight, Itachi placed Sasuke under Tsukuyomi and flickered behind Obito and said, "It is over." Obito nodded and both disappeared. Fujin's clones stayed patiently for a few minutes. They didn't look at anything and instead focused chakra in their ears to pick up any sound. A few minutes after all sounds died down, they entered the Uchiha clan compound through the ground. This was one of the main reasons why Fujin chose the honey badger disguise. They were known to be excellent diggers. On entering, all clones had a specific job. One clone headed towards Akioko's house while another headed towards Fugaku's house. One clone kept an eye on the entry route to warn others when the Umbu came. The last two searched the Uchiha clan compound to see if they could find Sara's house to see if he had the scroll. The clone heading towards Fugaku's house reached there first. He focused chakra in his eyes and checked if there were any active chakras around him. Fortunately, there were none. He thought, good. If Fugaku does have Mangekyou, then I want it. He got closer to his house while still staying underground but suddenly stopped as he felt danger. He focused chakra in his eyes once again as he wondered why he felt the danger. On noticing, he frowned, shit, his house is covered in seals. And I can't identify many of them. He analyzed the seals and concluded, these seals shouldn't stop me from entering the house. But knowing what seals can do, I am afraid that there will be some consequences. It's fine if I am dispersed, but I don't want my main body to be implicated. That said, the rewards here are the greatest. Be it his Mangekyou or the fact that the Grand Priest's body is most likely to be with him. He decided to keep analyzing until he cracked the seals or the Umbu arrived. Meanwhile, the clone that was heading to Akioko's house didn't face any obstacles. Though Akioko's house also had some seals, they were rather simple and Fujin's clone had no issues getting around them and entering the house. After entering, the honey badger clone saw the dead bodies of Akioko and his family. He immediately began searching for any and all scrolls in his house. He found multiple scrolls. Fortunately, one of the scrolls looked just like the scroll Sara had used to seal Zankoku. He immediately took it and checked it. He sighed in relief, this scroll still has his body. He put the scroll on his back. Fujin had inscribed a storage seal on the back of his clones before letting them go. After storing the scroll, the clone walked back to where he had seen Akiyoko. He used his paw to open his eyes and saw that his eyes were still intact. He thought, good, his eyes are still intact. I saw that some of the Uchihas were missing their eyes. I guess that Obito took the eyes of the ones he killed while Ataka didn't. He summoned a container from the storage space on his back. He took both his eyes carefully and stored them in the container. He observed his eyes while analyzing, though I have no intention of implanting a 3-tomo Sharingan in my eyes right now, it'll be good to have them. If I change my mind in the future or have any particular need, I can rely on these. Since he got what he wanted, he left the house. He went towards Fugaku's house to meet up with the clone outside his house. The clone noticed him approaching. He appeared behind the clone and tapped his back thrice. That was the code for saying that he had found the body of the Grand Priest. The clone that was working on the seals around Fugaku's house looked back at his house unwillingly before leaving. They quickly dispersed to find the other clones and soon dispersed into 5 separate directions. One clone headed towards the Akimichi territory, another towards Nara territory and one headed towards the Senju territory. They dispelled themselves after reaching close to their territories. The last 2 clones moved towards the forests. One dispersed himself near the Konoha border wall while the last one moved towards Fujin's wind clones. On reaching the spot, he came out of the ground and handed them the storage scroll and the storage container. He went underground again and continued to move towards the border wall of Konoha and dispelled himself close to it. This way, all 5 clones were dispelled. The wind clones used wind instantaneous body jutsu to reach another spot where Fujin's shadow clone was waiting for them. Fujin's shadow clone collected the items and returned home while the wind clones followed the same procedure as the honey badger clones. Fujin saw his clone returning home. He accepted the items and returned back to his basement. Chapter 199, Aftermath and Survivors. After entering the basement, Fujin sat down in meditation to analyze his actions. All right, almost everything went as I planned. My honey badger clones didn't leave any traces behind. However, if anyone still picks up on their trail somehow, they will be led to the Akimichi, Nara, and Senju clans. So the suspicion will be cast on them and there wouldn't be any clue to reach me. Even if they speculate that those clans were being set up, they would suspect that the ones who meddled left the village from the spots my last 2 clones dispelled themselves. And as a precaution, I did the same with my wind clones. So I should be safe. Fujin opened the scroll and summoned 2 items. One was the scroll with Zankoku's dead body while the other was the equipment that had Akioko's eyes. Fujin first focused on Zankoku's dead body. Impressive. The storage seal Sara used stops his body's condition from deteriorating. I was worried that stealing the body won't help me much if I can't use it soon. But with this, I can work on this even after a few years. That's good as I have no means to extract information from this dead body right now. Fujin shifted his attention to Akiko's eyes. I didn't make any plans to steal Sherry-nan. After all, I can't use them. I guess my clone just couldn't resist after seeing that they were available so easily. Now, what do I do with them? Fujin began analyzing. After a few minutes, he concluded, directly implanting them is out of the question. I won't be able to hide this and it would draw too much attention. The only way to use it would be if Hiruzen gives me permission. But considering what attack is sacrificed to do this, I doubt Hiruzen would go around giving permissions to implant Sherry-nans. Not to mention, that I can't tell him that I have a pair of Sherry-nans and instead will have to ask him to give me another. So, the only viable way I can use one of these is if I lose one of my eyes in a mission. Once one of my eyes is blinded, I won't draw any suspicion from putting on an eye patch. After some time, I can implant Sherry-nan secretly. But, is it worth doing it? Almost immediately, Fujin shook his head. The only advantage a Sherry-nan can provide me is allowing me to copy jutsus. And since I'll have to keep my Sherry-nan a secret, there won't be much opportunity to use them for that purpose. Not to mention, fighting with just one eye will be tougher. Considering the fast-paced nature of battles, it could even be lethal. I'll have to keep my chakra field active in all battles, which would drain my chakra. And, there is also the matter of Kakashi. 12 years old Kakashi was a monster. His talent was almost unmatched. One could easily compare his talent with the Sunins and Minato. Yet, when he became a Jounin sensei at around the age of 26, he wasn't an S-rank ninja. Despite learning 1,000 jutsu, he still couldn't create a jutsu stronger than Chidori. And he could only use Chidori 4 times a day. So there is a big question on how much strain a Sherry-nan will put on chakra reserves. If Kakashi not living up to his potential was caused due to the Sherry-nan, then it's a big no for me to have. That said, there were other factors involved with Kakashi too. Like him being depressed and spending hours in front of that stone. So the drop in his training time due to those factors could also be a reason why his strength wasn't that high. So I'm not sure how much of a role Sherry-nan had in restricting his growth, but I don't want to try it right now. In the future, when the growth in my chakra reserve stagnates, I could consider this option. Having made his decision, Fujin looked at the 2 items thinking, now, the main question is where and how do I hide these 2 items? Around 8 minutes after Fujin's clones left the Uchiha clan compound, Hiruzen led a team of his Umbu ninjas and entered the Uchiha clan compound. Danzo joined him as well along with some of his root ninjas. However, as soon as they entered the clan, they stopped. The Umbu and the root ninjas had performed many shady missions. But seeing the entire street littered with the dead bodies and blood of the members of the strongest clan in the village shocked them. One of the Umbu asked, how could something like this happen in Konoha? Hiruzen frowned and said, scatter and quickly check everyone. Find the survivors and give them proper treatment or take them to the hospital. Both the Umbu and the root ninjas scattered and began checking, leaving just Hiruzen and Danzo standing. Danzo said, it's unfortunate, but Itaka did what had to be done. Now our village won't plunge into chaos. Hiruzen looked back at his old friend and said, you went around me and did this without consulting or even informing me. Danzo didn't like the tone Hiruzen was speaking in. He said, Hiruzen. However, Hiruzen interrupted him, no need to say anything. As of this moment, I am officially dissolving root. The root shinobi will be placed under my command in the Umbu. The foundation system of recruiting and training orphans will be abolished as well. Hiruzen's words shocked Danzo. He realized that this would mean the end of any influence he had in Konoha. Even if he managed to keep some core root ninjas under his command, he would be left with a very limited force if he couldn't train more root ninjas. He quickly protested, "Hiruzen, Konoha needs root to survive. We are the unseen ones who support the great tree of Konoha from the depths of the earth. Without the root, Konoha would face a lot of issues without any means of handling them." Hiruzen replied, "Your actions cost Konoha its strongest clan." Hiruzen looked at Danzo and stared at his bandaged right eye and said, "And it cost us 2 loyal and patriotic youngsters with the Mangekyou. They could have kept the village safe for the next few decades. Unfortunately, due to your actions, we no longer have them." Danzo was about to argue back, when Hiruzen said, "Say no more. My decision is final." The Umbu began returning. The first one to return was Kakashi. He was carrying Sasuke. He said, "Lord Hokage, I found him. He is still breathing but is unconscious." Hiruzen looked at Sasuke and realized, it looks like he was placed under a strong genjutsu. Did Itachi also gain a strong genjutsu like Shisui? He said, "Take him to the hospital and have the doctors look after him. Ensure that he stays safe." Kakashi nodded. However, he couldn't help but ask, "Lord Hokage, who killed all the Uchihas?" Hiruzen replied, "We will have to investigate. I'll let you know when we find the culprit." Kakashi wanted to ask more but knew that it wasn't the right time. He nodded and left with Sasuke. After a few minutes, more Umbu returned. One of them stepped forward and said, "Lord Hokage, in the area we investigated, all Uchiha except small children have been killed. On investigating, we realized that all Uchiha who were ninjas or academy students were killed. Only the ones who haven't enrolled in the academy are alive. But they have been knocked unconscious." Hiruzen frowned and said, "I see. Take all the kids away from here. It's best if they don't see any of this. You investigate and tell me the total number of survivors." The Umbu ninja nodded and got to work. Hiruzen gazed at Danzo. Danzo looked back at him thinking, as long as I can eliminate Itachi, I would have been able to integrate all the Uchiha orphans into root. So the threat of the Uchiha clan would forever be neutralized and instead, they would be the most loyal and patriotic in the village. In addition, by using the death of their family, I could easily awaken Sharingan in most of them. In a decade, I would have had the strongest special force among all the 5 villages. But, it looks like he figured out my plan and hence decided to disband root. The Umbu and the root ninja sent all the kids to the hospital. The Umbu that had been tasked by Hiruzen reported, "Lord Hokage, in all 34 children are still alive. 19 are girls and 15 are boys." Hiruzen replied, "Good work. I'll leave the safety of the Uchiha children to you. Ensure that they stay safe in the hospital." The Umbu nodded and flickered away. With just the 2 of them together, Hiruzen asked, "Did you have to kill the ones in the academy?" Danzo replied, "In a war, we send students from the academy to the battlefield. It's unknown if some of the Uchiha families decided to train the academy students and have them participate in the coup. If they know about the truth, then it will only result in another Uchiha coup after they grow up. So I wanted to get rid of all of them. Unfortunately, Itachi was insistent on letting his brother and the children alive." Hiruzen snorted at Danzo's reply and left. Danzo saw him leaving and had a headache. He thought with a frown, "Now, how do I still keep the root with me? Hiruzen seems determined to take it down. I don't think words would change his mind. Chapter 200, The Deterrence of Uchiha Itachi. As Danzo was contemplating his options, two root ninjas flickered next to him and began reporting all their findings to him. They began moving towards a root base. Suddenly, one of the root ninjas said, "Lord Danzo, while we were inspecting the Uchiha clan compound, we found a secret message. We wanted to let you know first." That attracted Danzo's attention. He asked, "What is the message?" The root ninjas spoke. However, his voice was now different. And there was no reverence or respect for Danzo in the voice. He said, "If any of the Uchiha children end up in root, I will sell all the secret information I know about Konoha to enemy villages." Danzo's eyes widened as he saw the root ninja turn into crows while speaking. A frown formed on his face when the other root ninja spoke in the same voice, "And if anything happens to Sasuke, I will act myself." He too dispersed into crows, leaving Danzo all alone. He muttered, "Damn Uchiha." While Hiruzen and Danzo were busy handling the situation, Fujin was inscribing a seal on his right forearm. He inscribed it right on the part that would be covered by his bracers. After completing it, Fujin inspected it as he thought, "Good. This seal is completed." Though inscribing storage seals on your own body isn't recommended, it isn't really difficult to do. Anyways, I have sealed the Sherry non-eyes in Sara's storage scroll as well. I'll hide this scroll in the seal. So there is no way anyone would find it? In the event that someone somehow understands about the seal and suspects something, I can always destroy the seal with a mere thought. He stored the scroll in the seal on his forearm and made a hand sign. Soon, the seal disappeared. Fujin wondered, "I wonder how the space that stores tailed beasts is created. And if I can store other things, like this scroll, there." Itachi stayed in the village until he saw Hiruzen was alone. He approached him and had a discussion with him. After getting assurance from Hiruzen that his brother and other Uchiha orphans will be looked after, he left the Hidden Leaf village and became a rogue ninja. Hiruzen put Konoha under maximum security. The next day, news spread throughout Konoha that shocked everyone to the core. Uchiha Itachi had slaughtered his entire clan. Only a few dozen young children were left alive. When the news spread throughout the world, every single ninja village was shocked. After the death of Senju Tobirama, the Senju clan declined in power. The Uchiha clan was estimated to be the strongest clan among all 5 major villages. And yet, such a clan was annihilated by a 13-year-old boy. Both minor and major villages began having meetings to ensure that their village's security was up to the mark and discussed countermeasures in case Uchiha Itachi showed up in their village. Only one village thought about more than just defense. That village was Kyumigakuer. In the Raikage's office, most of Kyumigakuer's strategists and elders were present. All were considering whether they should take any action against Konoha. After all, the sudden loss of their strongest clan would have shaken Konoha. After some time, one old man said, "Lord Raikage, I don't think it's in our best interest to attack Konoha right now. Though they lost the Uchiha clan, their overall strength is much higher than when Orochimaru left the village. Most of their Chunins who survived the Third Great War have been promoted to Jounins. And they have raised thousands of new ninjas. Besides, though the Uchiha clan had a lot of Jounins, they didn't have any S-rank battle power. If we go to war, the 2 Sunnins would return to Konoha." The 4th Raikage said, "Though their strength has increased, ours has increased even more." However, his viewpoint was opposed by another elder, and so have the strengths of other villages. "If we go to war, Iwagakuer will wait until we exhaust our strength and jump in at the worst time." The Raikage frowned. At that time, one of the younger advisors spoke, "We need to probe them to see what their response will be. If they cower like last time, then this might be a good opportunity for us to attack quickly and with full force." The Raikage looked at him and asked, "Hari, do you have a target for probing Konoha?" The advisor, Hari, grinned and said, "I have just the perfect target for it." He opened up a map and explained the plan to everyone in the room. The people in the room were first shocked due to the information he provided. However, soon greed could be seen on everyone's face. One of the elders said, "Great work. If we can get this, we don't even need to attack Konoha for now. After all, the profits from this would be mind-boggling." However, Hari said, "No, this doesn't compare to what we can gain from Konoha. However, since this is so valuable, Konoha's response will tell us about their current capability and morale. If it is strong, we can dispatch more forces to secure this and negotiate another deal with them like the last time. If they let us have it, then we will use this place as a base for our future assault." The Raikage said, "All right, it's decided. We will go with this plan. Darui, you will lead a team of 50 ninjas and claim this. Hari, you will accompany them as the advisor." Darui and Hari nodded and were about to leave when another old elder asked, "Lord Raikage, what do you think about kidnapping some Uchiha orphans? With their clan dead, there won't be anyone to protect them. The task will be a lot easier than kidnapping the Hyuga princess." I fell into thought. After some time, he said, "No, even though the task might be easier, it's full of hidden risks. We don't know why Uchiha Itachi massacred his clan. Nor do we know why he left the kids alive. If he intends to hunt them later, then all our efforts will be wasted and instead, we would have pointless casualties. Considering what he has done, it's safe to say that he has the Mangekyou Sharingan that Uchiha Madara had. If we attract his attention in the middle of a war, our casualties will go up several times." The mention of Uchiha Itachi lowered the excitement in the room. Hari said with a grim face, "Lord Raikage, we need to find a way to kill him. After all, he slaughtered the entire Uchiha clan and is only 13 years old. If we give him time to grow further, he'd become an even bigger threat. He might become a menace for the entire ninja world." However, Raikage dismissed his concern. Right now Konoha would be the most pressed to kill him. Hiruzen should have sent all his Umbu and Jiraiya after him. Let them exhaust their strength on him while we make our moves. Hari nodded and left with Darui. Back in Konoha, Hoka and Tara showed up at Fujin's house the morning after the massacre. The news of the Uchiha massacre shocked them. Fujin invited them in with a sad expression. They all sat in a room without speaking. Finally, Hoka asked, "Did you go to the Uchiha clan compound?" Fujin replied, "I did, but they have barricaded the whole area. And they didn't answer any questions." Tara replied, "Same here, but I got some news from my parents." Hoka said with a dejected voice, "Yeah. Most Uchihas were killed. It probably also includes Miko as there was no news about her. Only a few dozen children survived." Fujin was surprised. Though he didn't show anything on his face, he looked at Hoka and asked, "Some children survived?" Hoka nodded. Teru said, "From what I heard, only those who hadn't entered the academy were left alive. Lord Hokage will make an announcement in the afternoon." Fujin said, "I see." However, he was in shock. Sasuke isn't the only survivor? Shit, did I somehow change the future? Fujin went quiet and began thinking. Hoka and Teru assumed that he was sad and stopped talking as well. After thinking about every possibility, Fujin concluded, no, none of my actions should have any impact on Itaka's, Obito's, or Danzo's actions. Even assuming Itaka saw me being shameless in front of Hiruzen, I doubt I'd be the most shameless or selfish person he saw. So it shouldn't have any impact on his actions. Regardless, how will this affect the future? Fujin kept analyzing. The biggest impact should be a sense of responsibility on Sasuke's shoulder. Since he is in the second year of the academy, he should be the eldest and the strongest Uchiha in the village. So he will have to take responsibility for the other Uchiha orphans and lead them. And, the question that this raises is whether he would still go rogue and train under Orochimaru. Fujin thought for a bit before realizing, wait, I recall that Sasuke had two goals. One was to restore the Uchiha clan and the other was to kill Itaka. But, since there are other orphans alive, Sasuke wouldn't have to worry that his death would cause the Uchiha clan to go extinct. He can completely focus on taking his revenge and restoring the honor of his clan by killing Itaka. From this perspective, the future shouldn't change. The only complication that could arise is if the sense of responsibility somehow changes him. Though that might not be a bad change. After all, Shippuden Sasuke was an asshole. Even assuming that he doesn't accept Orochimaru's offer and doesn't get strong enough, Itaka will still die at his hands. And if he does go to Orochimaru, then he can't possibly get worse as compared to what I remember. Sigh, leave it. There is no point in trying to speculate so much. I always expected that things might not go down as I remember. I'll just act according to what happens in the future. While Fujin, Hoka, and Teru were sitting together in silence, there was another meeting happening in Konoha. It was between Hiruzen and the elders who were discussing how to handle